Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Elliot Grigg. This is a reaction video to the news that Eddie Hearn has made an offer to Dillian Whyte to fight Anthony Joshua on August 12th. Elliot, interested to get your reaction to this. It sounds like this fight is getting closer now. I've not really heard any other names that Joshua could fight on August the 12th. Feels like Dillian Whyte is very much a front runner. The fight, it's a debate. You can have a debate over how big this fight would be, but it's a bigger fight than Joshua fighting, a Hrgovic, for example. So yeah, this is not us saying that it's definitely going to happen, but it's us saying it's probably going to happen. Assuming that it does happen, Elliot, what is your reaction to this fight getting close to being announced, we'll say?
Um, my reaction is I can actually see it makes sense for me in a weird way. Like, don't get me wrong, we were saying a bit earlier, like both fighters are clearly in decline, and I feel like we've seen Dillian Whyte essentially chasing a fight with AJ for some time, obviously still being a financially lucrative opportunity. Obviously we've seen him in Poland, we've seen him Tony Joyce fight, all these different names he's mentioned. But I think, to be honest with you, for him, it makes sense as a sort of final cash out. For Joshua, I think Joshua will win. Frankly, I think even though he's clearly in decline, I can see it being actually less risky than a lot of the other opponents that were banded around. And it's still a big British fight in the sense of it'll capture a casual audience. You can market it as the trilogy fight or whatever, and you can say, AJ's on the decline. What if White hits him, sort of thing. So you can kind of sell it, but it's not. To be honest, it's not got the appeal of like other fights I'd necessarily like to see, but where the both guys are at in their current careers, I'm not surprised it's a front runner, to be honest.
Yeah. One topic I'm interested in discussing is just how big is this fight? I think that I'm not calling us hardcore fans, but at the same time, I don't think we're not casual fans. Do you think that this fight could capture the imagination of a casual fan and could be quite big? If you got to remember, Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora sold 70,000 tickets just a few months ago in a fight that everyone knew what was going to happen. Which kind of reminded people of the power of casual fans, perhaps. How big? Yeah, how big do you think this fight will be if it does happen? If you consider kind of casual fans getting involved in domestic heavyweight scrap.
Um, I think it's a big fight. I do think for a casual fan, it's a big fight because I suppose there's still that kind of legacy promotion hanging around both White and AJ. Matchroom did a great job really in promoting both of those guys. Can't take any criticism away from regarding to them. Obviously with White, they positioned, didn't they, as being avoided and feared and all this sort of stuff. And his performances didn't really match up to that. And AJ was at one point very good, obviously, but there was always that fragility, which now seems to be clear. But I think there's enough of that kind of sentiment still going around boxing fandom that people will want to see this. And there will be that sense of, you're just, I dread to say it myself because I know that someone else will be saying it probably in the marketing teams and the promos, but they'll be saying, it's heavyweight boxing. What if one of them lands, type of shit? So we'll have that kind of sales patter as well. So I still think it'll capture what it's. Will it capture like Fury Chisora numbers? To be honest with you, I was stunned that Fury Chisora captured that sort of number. There's only so much you can hear of like Tyson Fury singing a song, turning out, having a nice finish, which was nice for him. It was a nice occasion for him, but obviously it was clear the way that fight was going to go before it happened. So in a weird way, I can see this fight almost, for me, it almost exists between a kind of Wembley Stadium fight. I think
Yeah.
it's probably too big for the O2. I'd say it could sell more than the O2, but I'm not sure. If it sold out Wembley, for example, I'd have to, I'd be surprised. But equally, Fury Chisora did it essentially, didn't it? So I'll be that
Mm.
surprised.
Yeah, and I feel like we have had decent sized fights happen in the UK this year. I think Leeward against Lara twice, like Beterbiev came over and fought Anthony Yard, Liam Smith versus Chris Eubank, big fights, but this is, in my opinion, a bigger fight in terms of the amount of tickets it's going to sell than those fights. I'm just talking about fights happening in the UK just to confirm. So yeah, it would just be interesting, especially after Joshua's performance in his last fight wasn't
Hmm.
the performance a lot of people were hoping for. Dillian Whyte's performance in his last fight wasn't the performance people were hoping for. So I'm very interested to see the reaction if this fight does get officially announced, what it's like on fight week. So yeah, it is a really interesting one. It's interesting to see what's going to happen in this fight as well. Elliot, final question from me. Joshua will be the heavy, I'm going to say, yeah, heavy favourite for this fight. See what the betting odds are like when they come out, but I would say, yeah, pretty heavy favourite. Um, how much of a heavy favourite do you think Joshua is in this fight? Is this kind of a, a 70-30 and 80-20? How confident would you be that Joshua is going to defeat Dillian Whyte again?
I'm very confident he will beat him again, frankly. But I think weirdly, to be honest with you, like if it was an opponent that had that lack of I suppose sort of emotional response from Joshua, I would be more confident. But I almost feel like he will be drawn into a scrap by Dillian Whyte somehow. I don't think it's going to be a pretty fight, to be honest. I think he'll stop him again. I think he's faster for starters. And I think, we've seen Dillian Whyte be hurt in nearly every fight he's had, but equally we've seen AJ also get hurt. So in a way, it's kind of, I make it probably around 70-30, 65, 70-30, something like that to AJ. I think he could take a left hook, he could go over, but I just think he'd have far too much of Dillian Whyte, frankly. The sort of the recent performances we've seen from Whyte, especially. I mean, don't get me wrong, like Jermaine Franklin was actually kind of tailor made for AJ. Of course, he was, and obviously, but I think there's a mental there's pressure on AJ, isn't there? There's a mental fragility. He has to win, frankly, fights like that, and I think that tightens him up. And I think obviously he's gone with different trainers, and his head scrambled maybe a little bit by that. But I still think he'll have more than enough when it actually happens, when it matters, just on pure physical attributes alone. To basically be quicker than Dillian Whyte and have a more of a solid chin than Dillian Whyte. So I was expecting to stop him here somewhere. I'm going to put a prediction on it. Whyte will tie probably around 5 or 6, probably somewhere around 6, 5, 6, 7, maybe something like that. Stop him, I think.
Yeah, that's fair, mate. I'm happy to go along with that. It's very difficult to see a Dillian Whyte win after his last performance, the fight against Tyson Fury. He was expected to lose that fight, but I think he was expected by some to put up more of a fight, and it didn't really happen. And I just think he hasn't given us an impressive performance for a while, whereas Joshua, I think that's the second Usyk fight. He lost the fight, but he still had his moments. It was a much more competitive fight than the first one. I think people are maybe forgetting that a little bit, but I actually thought that was a good performance by Joshua. He just didn't do enough to win. He was up against the better man on the night. So
no, I totally agree with that. Yeah. People criticize him for losing twice, but that was a really good performance that he put in there. Deserves a lot more credit for it.
Absolutely. People have got short memories in boxing, short memories in life. Elliot Grigg, thank you very much. Again, yeah, we'll see if this fight gets officially announced. It's on August 12th is the date being banded about, which is just over 2 months away. So got to expect an announcement soon. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Elliot Grigg, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.